Hello. I see we've had a few more folks join us, so I'll go ahead and get started. I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Sarah. I am on the support team here at Tripleseat. I just want to thank you so much for joining today's pop-up webinar. Today we're going to focus on Tripleseat Direct for holiday catering orders. Most of you probably already have Tripleseat Direct enabled. For those of you who do not, and you're maybe looking to learn more about it, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of the feature before we dive in. Tripleseat Direct is a seamless way to book, manage, and execute your off-site or in-house private events or catering. With Tripleseat Direct, your customer is able to go to your website and choose their own date, time, and menu selections for an event. They then enter their contact information and their credit card to submit, and that inquiry is going to come into Tripleseat, and you'll be able to either accept it or reject it. If accepted, it's automatically added to your calendar. A set of documents is created, and the deposit is charged to the card on file. We're going to go over the front end of Tripleseat Direct to give you a good idea of your customer's view. And for this webinar, we're going to focus primarily on form settings, as this is really what's going to make the difference between a standard Tripleseat Direct event order or a catering order for Thanksgiving or the holidays. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, and I'll answer some of our most commonly asked questions about setting up this particular form. Hopefully I'll be able to answer those questions, but you can also chat them in as we go along. We have Alex and Mark here to answer your questions, so feel free to send those in. So that said, let's begin. I'll cut off my camera. All right, and we'll begin on this live form. So the first thing that you'll notice here is we have this banner specific to Thanksgiving. I just kind of took a Thanksgiving meal to really replace our standard branding for this form. I also changed the verbiage here. It typically by default says book your event. I wanted to make it very clear that this is for our Thanksgiving order at Millie's. Below that, we have, we want the guests to be able to enter their initial information. They can add pickup notes if they need. They can add number of guests, but they don't have to for pickup orders. If you're doing drop-off or even full-service catering for Thanksgiving or the holidays, the number of guests is obviously very important. If you're interested in adding those other event styles, I'll show you where you can do that in the form settings towards the end of the webinar. Over here, you'll probably notice the biggest difference. So Millie's is open 7 days a week from noon until 11 p.m. But for this particular form, we only have the available dates as that Tuesday through Thursday of the week of Thanksgiving. So if we take a look at Tuesday, for example, the pickup time appears. Again, I mentioned that Millie's is open at noon every day, but for that week, we have someone on our team designated to handle those pickup orders from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we want to give, our guests the chance to select any of these times. We set the same for Wednesday, but on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, we wanted to make sure that all members of our team could be home by 12:30. So we made the last pickup time at 11:45. On Thanksgiving Day. For my example, I will choose Wednesday. Let's say I'm picking up at 1:30 p.m. We'll click next. On this page, we see the options that the guest can select for their menu and their charges. First, I set up these family meals here. You'll see we have the holiday feast feeds 2 to 4 people, holiday feast 4 to 6 people, holiday feast 8 to 10, and the prices. Below that, our next menu is the holiday desserts. These are just specific items they can add on as they see fit. So with my group, I'm going to have 6 people. So let's select holiday feast 4 to 6 people. We see the description here. It lets us know that these are coming in ready to heat foil pans. The reheating instructions are included. That should answer most of the questions I have about preparing this food the next day. First, we see under this package, we see entree. choose one. So we're going to pick Turkey. And you'll notice that once we select Turkey, the other options are grayed out. And I'll show you where you can set this up in your Tripleseat Direct settings. Same for sides, we have 2. So let's go with mashed potatoes and green beans. And again, the rest gray out, the tab goes to green, lets us know it's ready to go. Salads, choose 1, and bread, choose 1. Alrighty, this looks good. We don't have to change anything else. We'll click save, and you'll notice that it adds over to the billing widget here. I want to add on a few cakes here, so let's do pecan pie. We'll do a cheesecake and a pumpkin pie. And you'll notice these continue to add over here. I do just want to show you that for your guest, if I change my mind, I don't want pecan pie, I want to erase that and I'll add something else. Perfect. So this looks good. It lets me know my subtotal here. It also has this disclaimer here that says prices do not include taxes or fees. We'll see those in just a moment. This all looks good. You can also, if you have these holiday meals, but you want to give them to the option to add on ham or add on, a large side of mac and cheese or something, I would recommend adding those as items, and we'll see that in just a moment, so that they can kind of see, quart of mac and cheese. They can add it the same way we added those desserts. Okay, this looks good. Let's click next. On this page is where the guest will enter their contact information and their personal information. The nature of the event is really up to them. I would like to note that whatever is entered here comes into Tripleseat as the event name. You can obviously change this once it comes in, but that's where that name comes from. We'll enter our first and last name, our email address, the company. They don't have to enter, the guest doesn't have to enter this. This is really helpful if, maybe it's a company luncheon the day before Thanksgiving, so that you can know the name of the company, but they don't have to use that. Phone number. Additional information, anything that they might want to add. A common example of this might be like a loyalty program number, and I can show you where you can adjust what this says. Over here, we have the summary of our pickup order. Again, we see subtotal, prices do not include tax or fees. Those are going to appear on the payments screen. We'll see that in just a moment. We'll click add payment, and this is where we see the terms and conditions. This is what the guest agrees to. The guest cannot submit a Tripleseat Direct order without accepting these terms. So that's really good to know, that if it comes in, that they've accepted those terms, and I'll show you where you can see their approval stamp. We'll click accept. And we have over on the left here, for your standard Tripleseat Direct events, this would be where the guest could enter their credit card information. And then over on the right, we see all of those taxes and fees were added. And it gives us this note here that the full payment will be processed upon acceptance. So once we were to click submit request, we'd be brought to a page that looks like this. This is the confirmation that the guest receives. And again, it says we will let you know when we've confirmed the order, full payment processed upon acceptance. So we've authorized the card, but it hasn't charged anything yet. I will pause for just a moment, see if we have any questions. Okay, we're getting caught up on some questions, great. Okay, so next we're going to look on the internal side of things where your team sees that. So in the form settings, you can set up for certain users to be notified when those Tripleseat Direct events are submitted. I'll show you where you can do that. But also when you log in on your dashboard, you'll see under new Tripleseat Direct events, you will see that there, where you can accept it or reject it right off the bat. You'll see the name, again, that's the nature of event, the contact, the when, and the where. If you have multiple locations and you're doing multiple event styles, then those would pick up here. So for example, it might say drop-off catering at Blue Water Restaurant. So if that's all the information you need to determine if you're going to accept it or reject it, you can do so here. But we're going to click accept. Actually, we'll go look at it first. Okay, so when we go look at this event, we see the status is pending. So once we accept it or reject it, it'll go to those standard triple seat statuses like definite or lost. But we just want to take a quick look. Down here, we have the documents that have been generated automatically. We'll look at those in a moment. And then we see there's a little activity on the payments tab. That payment has been created. Once we accept it, we'll charge the card. So let's go ahead and accept it. Looks good. This is that credit card on file that the guest submitted. Here you can see the payment total, and we'll click submit. Okay. So now that this has been paid, let's go look at the Tripleseat Direct documents. First, we have the template. This looks pretty standard very similar to the Tripleseat core events. Contact info, you can add some special instructions. The biggest difference is going to be the menu selections. On your Tripleseat core events, these are, you'll see pick list fields. That's how you can edit your menus. For Tripleseat Direct events, it's done via menu selections, and I'll show you in just a moment where you can edit those. The additional information submitted by the client would populate here. If you need any kitchen notes, staff notes, anything for your documents, you can add those just like you would a core event. And then below we have the billing widget where you can see all of your fees, taxes, gratuity. We see that paid deposit. And then down at the bottom, we see the terms and conditions. Please note that these are grayed out because they are no longer editable. This has already been approved by the guest. They submitted this earlier today. The guest is already approved to these terms and they cannot be edited after the fact. So let's go back out and take a look at the layouts. The biggest change as far as Tripleseat Direct versus core events is going to be this agreement here. This is similar to the contract. This includes the terms and conditions and that guest stamp of approval. The rest of the layouts look very similar to your core events. We'll take a look at the event order. You'll notice there's not much of a difference between these and the core event layouts. The discussions tab operates very similarly to the core. Payments, the rest of these tabs all are identical. The biggest change is going to be the menu selections tab. This is where you edit those options for Tripleseat Direct events. So if your guest contacts you and says they wanted to make a change to their order, you would come to this tab, click edit, and let's say they wanted to change one of the sides from mashed potatoes to stuffing. Come in here, unselect, and then just save. If they contacted you and wanted to add more, you can click add item. Please note this includes all menus within your Tripleseat Direct settings, so you'll just have to kind of look through, but you can also use this search option here. Okay. Any questions about that? Great. So next we're going to shift gears and go into Tripleseat Direct settings. So let's go on over to settings. If you have the appropriate access, when you navigate to settings, you should see this section here that reads Tripleseat Direct. We have a few different segments in here. In our standard Tripleseat Direct webinar, We would typically spend a lot of time in each of these tabs. I'm going to go through them briefly because I want to focus a little more time on the forms. The configurations, this is how you would set the duration limits, lead time limits for all locations within the group. This is how you set your billing details. So we did pick up catering. That's how all of these were applied. These still pull from your standard billing details and settings. And then down here at the bottom, the deposit, notice that we have the full payment due upon booking for pickup catering, and we accept 100% right off the bat. That's included in our terms. And then down at the bottom, blackout dates, those don't really apply to the holiday orders. So we're gonna skip on past that. I do wanna take a look at the hours so that you can see the standard Millie's hours. So during the week, 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. But you saw on our form, and I'll just go back and show you. You saw on our form how we customized the hours available for pickup. So they override what we set here, and we'll look at that in the form in just a moment. We'll skip over room rental fees since this is mostly for catering, and we're going to look at the items tab. So the items, packages, and menus all kind of work in tandem together. The biggest difference, the items, that's going to be a la carte pieces. So, for example, the cheesecake, the chocolate cake, the desserts that we had, those were items. They weren't set up as a package like those family meals were. Just one piece. If, for example, you wanted to add a large side of mac and cheese, I would suggest creating a new item, not a package. So you would just click new item, side of mac and cheese, select your location. If you have several, you want to make sure that you select that accordingly. Enter the price for that one large side of mac and cheese. Select your category. This is how the billing detail is going to be applied to this item, and then any public description or photo that you'd like to add. So that's the item. Next, we're going to look at the packages. The packages are the holiday feasts that we looked at. These are going to be prefixed menus where you typically have several different courses. So let's look at the 4 to 6 serving, just like we looked at in the form. We have our package display name. This is going to be what's guest facing. If for any reason you need a different internal name, you can select that here. You can type that in. The price that we saw, that's for the entire package. And our public description. I would recommend adding information like this that your guests might want to know. And then an internal description, anything that you might need for this catering order that is only intended for internal documents for your staff and kitchen. Up next is the item groups within the package. This is how you determine, which courses are going to be selectable for your guest. So the blue tab here, these are our courses or item groups. Underneath them are the items within the group. So if you wanted to add a new group, let's say, this actually came with a dessert, we would add the new item group and then add the items underneath it. But let's look at editing an existing item. So the entree, you can add an internal name if you need, but I really want to focus on this minimum selections and the maximum selections. So let's just look back at this really quickly. You see how in the form under holiday feast, entree, choose one, and it has our turkey, ham, and chicken. That's pulling from here, that choose one option. That is, we want them to choose one, but no more than one. Same goes for the sides. If we go to edit the sides, 2 minimum, 2 maximum, sides choose 2. So this is pulling from this package here. I'll take a quick pause to see if we have any questions about packages. All righty, great. So remember, items a la carte, the desserts that we looked at, packages, prefix menus, the holiday feasts. Next are menus. So menus are how your items and packages are displayed, how they're organized on the form. So if we look back at our form, we have holiday family meals and holiday desserts. These are two separate menus. So let's go look at those. Let's see holiday desserts. Again, you can edit the internal name, you can add a description, the allowed event styles. So if this is only going to be available for catering and not on premise. Next, we're going to look at items and packages. So all of those items that we added or the packages that we added can be added to this menu. So this is how you can kind of mix and match. Just for organization, I only added the desserts on this one, and those are all items. But if I had packages that I wanted added to this menu, I could do that as well. You can kind of mix and match. But it's very important not to miss this step so that they will appear on your form. There's one final step to make sure that they appear on the form. And again, looking at the holiday family meals and to compare on the form, we have that holiday family meals, items and packages, and I added those packages underneath the menu. Okay, any questions about that? Great. The forms are what we're going to look at. This is really how you differentiate what's going to be on your standard catering and events and what's on your holiday, your holiday form. So you can create a new one by clicking up here, but for this example, we're just going to look at the Millie's holiday form that I already created. To see what it looks like, you can click View Live Page. That's just going to take you here. Setup codes, we're going to look at in just a moment. And to edit, we'll click there. At the top, you have the details. The name is purely internal. It's really however it's going to help you and your team. The allowed event style. So this is where if you have drop-off, full service, or even on-premise Tripleseat Direct Thanksgiving, you can add those here. The guest-facing labels, if you don't adjust this, it's just going to read, full service catering or pickup catering. I just wanted to add a little bit extra just to really make that known that it's for the holiday. Over on the right, if you have access to multiple locations, this is where you can select how many locations you want to be included on this form. Below that is the branding. Remember, I added this dinner banner up here. That's where I added that. And then I removed the logo just so that we only saw this one image. Font style, you can adjust the font color. So if you wanted to use, let's say, orange and brown for Thanksgiving, you can add those here. And this part's very important, the menus. So we created the items, we created the packages, we added them to the menus. This is where you want to make sure that you select those menus to appear on this form. So we have all of these other menus that we use year round, but for this form, we only want these two to appear. Below that, these are the documents that are going to be automatically shared with your guest. So once they submit the inquiry, you can elect for any of these to be automatically shared with them. The form minimums, if you're doing full service or on premise, you may want you may require a guest count, so you can enter that minimum guest count here and even customize the error message that they receive if they do not meet that guest count. The minimum menu selection totals are set per event style. We don't really have a minimum for pickup catering, but if we were doing, drop off or full service catering, we might want a minimum. Below that is the gratuity selector. For pickup catering, we have our default gratuity that's added to the bill. But if you want your guests to be able to choose the gratuity, you could click off the event styles here that it's going to apply to. And that opens up these options where you can customize the text and the percentages. So we wanted to change these where the guest could choose from 18, 20, 22, 25, but we'll also allow them to enter a custom amount. Below that, where it says apply automatically, what this means is that the option the guest chooses here is going to automatically apply to the billing widget. If this is not selected, then a member of your team will need to go in and approve and apply the gratuity. So if you kind of want seamless beginning to end, I would recommend applying automatically. And then you can choose for the gratuity selection to be required in order for them to submit the order. Okay, we'll move that. Up next is page setup. The header text is where I changed this to place your Thanksgiving order with Millie's. The standard default by Tripleseat says book your event. Payment disclaimer text, we looked at that over here. So let's say you are doing off-premise of any kind, if you're doing full service or drop-off and you maybe have a delivery fee as well, then this would be a very good place to say this price does not include a delivery fee. Order summary disclaimer, anything that you feel like you want the guests to know while they're in the booking process can be entered here, and it's going to appear just below prices do not include taxes or fees. Additional information text, we looked at that when the guest enters their contact information, and I mentioned, if we wanted to say loyalty program number, then you can have the guest type that in when they enter their contact information. Up next is the terms and conditions. This is very important to add to this form because regardless if you have terms and conditions in your document, in your content templates, or in other Tripleseat Direct forms, it will not carry over to this form. It's set on the form level. So you want to make sure that you come in here and add, whatever you might need, and so that the guest will agree to it. Up next is the message displayed after completing the form. This standard is also, it's something along the lines of thanks for booking your event. So I changed it to thank you for thinking of Millie's for the holidays. Below that, send interested parties to this website. You can type in, if I wanted to say milliesrestaurant.com/gallery for them to look at some photos, then I can enter that right here. Booking expiration. So what this is, let's say if we put 48 hours, if a booking is not accepted or rejected within 48 hours of being submitted, then it automatically moves to lost. You do not have to enter anything here. I would say for our users, it's about half and half, those who use it and those who don't use this portion. Specialty availability. This is really where this is the most important part of the Thanksgiving catering form, because this is where you set these dates so that they override your location hours and availability. So we look here, everything else is grayed out, and we just have Tuesday through Thursday, and we already looked at those times. This is where I set those up. If you do not have this enabled and you come into your form settings, it's just going to look like this. So you'll want to make sure you click Enable Custom Availability, then you'll be able to select your dates and then add your times. So remember, like I said, on Tuesday and Wednesday, we have someone handling pickup orders from 9 to 3, but only until 12 on Thursday itself. So this is where you come and select those dates and add those hours. Lead time and event duration, you can also set this to only apply to this form, and it will override what you have in configurations, very similar to the special availability. So the event duration limits, if you're doing full service or on premise and you want to make sure that the event is at least 2 hours and no more than 4 hours, this is where you can come and set those, and it'll only apply to this form. And then lead time limits. So for pickup catering, we don't need a lead time limit, but maybe for drop off or full service, we need a day. So if they come into this form and try to place an order on Tuesday, we want to make sure that they can't come pick up that order, have that order dropped off, so be it, until Wednesday. Otherwise, they will still have Tuesday as an option. Any questions about that? Perfect. Continuing on is the auto response email section. So I definitely suggest coming in here and updating this verbiage because, again, the default is affiliated with booking events. So this one here, this is just confirmation that, that we received the order. The next one is when the order is accepted. It's sent automatically. And then the third one is if the order needs to be rejected. This is what's sent automatically when reject is selected. This portion here, I like to recommend to everyone to use this. So these 3 automated messages are sent from an email address that says noreply@tripleseat.com. Occasionally, guests might miss that and they'll still respond to that message. So if this is empty, the response is going to go to the owner of your Tripleseat site. If you want to specify who those responses go to, you'll add their email address here. So these responses don't really need to go to the owner of my platform. I need them to go to me and my events department. So I added in events@millies.com. And then you can also, in these automated messages, you can opt to have a link to the guest portal included. Continuing on is notifications. So I mentioned if you want to make sure that any particular people receive notifications when a Thanksgiving order is submitted from this form, this is how you do that. And then if you have an email address that's not tied to a Tripleseat user account, you can add that in here. So for example, info@millies.com is not tied to a user, but I want that email address to receive those notifications. So that's the bottom of the form. There's a lot of information there. If you have any questions, feel free to chat those in. And finally, we're going to look at the setup codes. So this is what your web developer is going to need to get this form on your website. I went ahead and took the liberty of finding a real customer that our support team helped set up their form, and their web developer set up on their website this great pop-up when you go to their website. Thanksgiving's coming, leave the cooking to us, click this, and there's their form. So it's a great option right when you go to their website. Their web developer built this using the information that we gave them. And another option worth noting, again, when you go to the View Live page, this here is just a standard URL. So this can be used in email marketing campaigns, or if someone calls your restaurant and says, I really want to book Thanksgiving order. I used it last week, and maybe you just want to email or text them or email them this link to make the process go a little bit quicker. All you have to do is copy and paste this URL. We did have a question come in. Can you add more than one email address on the pass screen? I'll actually show you going back into editing the form. Yes, you can. They just need to be separated by commas. So if we did .com, events@millies.com. You can add as many as you want, just separate them with commas. Okay. So that kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about as far as the catering orders. I did just want to mention, I know that there can be a lot of events coming in. These are going to be managed very similarly to your standard core events. You can manage them on the go. I know that holidays are busy. The Triple Seat is also mobile browser friendly. So you can use these straight from your iPhone, your iPad, your Android, anything like that. Triple Seat's mobile friendly. If you have questions about setting up a shortcut on your phone's homepage, feel free to contact support. We can send you those instructions. And if you have any other questions about Tripleseat Direct, about Tripleseat in general, feel free to contact our awesome support team. You can reach them by clicking this helping questions button right here, contact support. Chat is available until 6 p.m. Eastern time. You can also come in here and submit a help ticket. I'm going to stick around for the remainder of the time to answer any questions you might have, but otherwise, I'd really like to thank you all so much for joining today's pop-up webinar, and I hope you have a happy holidays.
Automatically muted me again.